You know, I'm already in love with you because we have the same name.
Yay! I know. I was so excited when I first found the blog and everything through Instagram. I was like, this girl, she gets
I do. I
it.
love our name.
Yes, I do too. So much so. When I worked in Disney, I did their college internship that they have. And
So did I.
stop! Where did you
Swear
work?
to you.
Amazing. Where did you work?
At the boardwalk.
Very fun.
Thank you.
Very fun. If you're, yeah, I was actually a jungle skipper at the Jungle Cruise.
Of course you were.
Um, but because the girl, our main trainer, she had a stack of applications and was literally dividing them pirates, Aladdin, jungle, pirates, Aladdin, jungle. And when she got to mine, her name was Natalie. And she said, oh, I'm a Natalie. I would want to be in jungle. Boom. And that's how I got put over in jungle.
I also want to tell you, you are the second Jungle Cruise captain in our Twiniversity family. Our first
See,
is Michael Barbaro, who
I
I will
love
be
it.
tagging in this episode.
Please
And
do.
yes,
I love it.
another one of my favorite Twiniversity people in the whole wide
Awesome.
world. It's honestly, it's just a freaking small world.
Yeah, that's insane.
Don't
I
make
love
it
that you
about you,
did it
Nat.
too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had to. How could you not?
I
Trust me,
know.
a lot of the things that I apply to my business every day has to do with them.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So much customer service and people relations, and even the way I work in childcare now. And there's so much of even just their basics that they introduce you to of getting down on a kid's level. And I mean, even with parenting, let alone working in childcare, it all goes back to the mouse.
I can't. No. All right,
Yeah.
well, we have non-Disney items
Yes.
to talk about,
Okay.
which is interesting. Oh, I have so much to tell you after this. Don't hang up after this pod. Like,
Okay.
seriously, as soon as we
Okay.
stop record, I will give you all the inside scoop. And for those of you that are listening, if you also have a Disney program, feel free to call me, and then I will
Yes.
give you the scoop that I will give Nat after this episode. Okay.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So we are talking about everybody's worst fear during pregnancy is the big old double whammy birth. Old school, a little bit of old school here, a little bit of new school here. So,
Yes.
Nat, we need the full story. We need all the gory details. We want the truth. We want literally, we are all ears. Get it? We're all
Yes.
ears, ear for this.
Yes.
So I need to know. All right. So you find out, you have a son.
Yes. I do have a son, an
You have
8-year old.
you have your 8-year-old dude who's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, yeah, let's have some siblings. It'll be fun. That'll be great.
Yep.
And then you're like, sure, that sounds great. Let's do
Yep. And it took us a few years to get those siblings, and that's okay. You know, he is a big personality, and I really just think, wow, I had so much time to really give him because I didn't have other ones running underfoot. And so go to the doctor after that first pregnancy test. And when it popped up on the screen, when I tell you there were two, just little boom, boom, you could not mistake that there were two in there because even this, the tech was like, oh my God. And I mean, instant, we knew it was twins. There was no denying it. Had the heartbeats, had all, I mean, just such an amazing, an incredible experience. And obviously any mom of multiples knows that immediate feeling of, wow, all the things throughout my entire pregnancy. It never once occurred to me that they may not be born the same way. Like that wasn't even a thought until I read that it happened to someone, and it became my number one fear, just like you said. And I think I spoke about it so much and talked with my doctor so much. What if this happens? What if we, and he was great. He was like, are you going to get an epidural? I said, well, yeah, of course I am. And he said, great, I'll check you. Everything's going to be perfect. If I think that's even a possibility, we're going straight C-section. I was like, bro, we got this. We're good. I go into labor in the middle of the night. Not only is he not on call, it was that, I mean, their entire birth experience is just, they're lucky they are so cute because it was a rough one. It was a rough one. But I remember the shaking was uncontrollable. It was in the middle of the night, like I said, around 3 a.m. And they pulled me back in. They struggled to get the epidural in to begin with because I guess the hormonal shaking, and I think I was panicking a little bit. They finally got the epidural in. They bring me back in, and I hear, okay, he's crowning, and I said, here we go. So I mean,
How
Yeah.
quick was that? From like, and wait, what week was this? What week did you deliver?
30, it's like it was like 37 and like 2 days shy of being 38 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, so almost went complete, I mean, full term for
Yeah,
twins.
absolutely.
Yes.
Crazy.
um
Yes.
so yeah, I mean, and that was a big thing too. That was where my main focus was carrying them as long as possible. I just
Mhm.
didn't even think of the other things. So got in there, they got the epidural, they wheeled me back into the OR. And then, I mean, yes, super quick. My water broke around like midnight. And we are in a small town outside of Tulsa. So the drive to Tulsa was about 20 minutes. And not to get too much information, but between my leaving my doorstep to getting to the hospital, my ankles to my shoulders were soaked just because I was sitting in just continuous. I mean, my water broke. And so my husband rushes me inside, sitting there filling out. It was a mess. I don't think they wanted to have babies that night. Everything was so slow. They finally get me back there. And then they said that he was crowning, and I said, okay, here he comes. And I could feel everything because the epidural hadn't kicked in. But you know what? Thankfully, Preston, the older of the twins, he was my itty bitty. He was 5'7", so 5 pounds 7 ounces. He was the smaller of the two. And he came quick. I mean, they brought me back there, I think around like 3-ish, and at 3:16, he was here.
That's
So it was
fast.
great. Yeah, I mean, super quick. And all of a sudden, I hear her say, wait, his head. And I'm thinking they're talking about Preston. And
Mhm.
so she checks for Easton, who's the younger of the two. And like I said, not kidding, epidural hadn't kicked in yet. So here's the on-call doctor checking. And all I hear her say is, I have his cord. And it was like a movie when I tell you they chanted C-section.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? What? It happened so quickly. They started to cut. I could feel it. And I said, ow, that hurts. And they said, oh, it hasn't kicked in yet. The anesthesiologist came back again. They started doing things. The boys are 16 minutes apart. So
Wow.
between the timing of them getting Preston out to cutting me open,
Yeah.
removing my insides and getting
Yes.
Easton, 16 minutes. That's how fast it happened. And to this day,
Amazing.
I don't know if his cord was in the way. I don't,
Yeah.
because the entire time his head was slightly off to the right, but not enough that they wouldn't have been able to turn him.
Mhm.
So my assumption is that maybe his cord was in the way, or that they just knew not. I mean, I trust their judgment on that. But wow, yeah. And I mean, it was, wow, it was fast. And it was, for all of you, it was horrendous, and I'm sorry, but it was. I wish I had some positive, like, no, it was awful. It was so, but they're here and they're healthy and they're amazing. And we had no NICU time. We got to go home within 3 days. I mean, so um, we were very blessed. So yeah.
It is, and honestly, Nat, it's such a small percentage of vaginal
Yes.
deliveries. I remember we did a survey at Twiniversity a few years ago, and I was just doing like random, like it's not an official survey because you need like 1,500 people or
Yeah.
whatever, and I think we had 800, but it was about 7% of vaginal deliveries, which were still less. So it was like
Wow.
a tiny piece of a tiny piece, right? Because, like, of course, having twins is a tiny piece. Then,
Yes.
having a vaginal delivery, if we're lucky enough, then, that's a tiny piece. And then it keeps going down these steps. But now, honestly, like in hindsight, right? Would you have made the decision to not have had that vaginal delivery?
It's funny because looking back, the C-section recovery for me was the worst because I had my son, naturally he came vaginally. And so I think the C-section, and keeping in mind, I'm 5 foot tall. So I didn't have a lot of room for these babies to grow. And so when think about just all of the excess that there was that I didn't have with my singleton, I think that's what made my C-section recovery just a little more challenging, because I know there are women that swear by it and they say they love it. And so for me, I think I don't know, because that recovery wasn't terrible because the C-section was so rough. So part of me is I, it added just that extra element of discomfort. But looking back, I don't know that it like made or break anything. I think for ease, I mean, we all know the steps that you go through when recovering through a vaginal delivery, yeah, I think maybe I would have made the choice just to have them one and done. That way it was just one area to focus on, but I also, it wasn't horrendous in that aspect, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Did you have a vaginal delivery with your first boy?
Yes. Yeah, he was vaginal. So
Yeah,
that's
see,
why, yeah.
the thing that I always try to bring up to people too is like you had the benefit of that. If you knew, like, let's say hypothetically, we weren't sure we were going to have
Mm-hmm.
kids. If you ended up having kind of the double whammy, as we call it, then at least you got to experience different
Yes.
types of
Yes.
delivery because it's really true. So you had that. So you were like, nah, I'm good. I would have been good with a C-section, but it's because you already had the vaginal delivery.
I did.
Like, yeah, I
Yes.
had that under my belt, got it, been there, done that, wrote the book. I'm
Yes.
all right. So,
Yep.
but like when you're thinking about the recovery, when like you're talking about like the C-section recovery, which could be, very challenging literally at any time. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
then you have people who totally have a breeze and
Yes.
everything. There's no cookie cutter to
No.
any of this. Do
Mm-mm.
you think that it changed the way that the boys behaved? Do you think like, oh yeah, that's a vaginal baby and that's a C-section baby? Like sometimes people even feel like, oh, he latched quicker and he's the vaginal delivery dude versus this one who, only liked a bottle. Did you
Right.
see any coincidences like that?
What's funny is we always joke about their head shape, is that Easton is my perfect little Gerber baby with that nice little circle head, and Preston not so much. But I yes and no. Easton, our C-section actually takes, he and my oldest have so much in common, from personality to, I mean, they even look more alike than he does his identical twin brother, if that makes sense. And Preston is just his own little person. He's super independent. He can, so I feel like, yeah, there are a lot of differences that, funnily enough, could be, hey, yep, that's our C-section kid, or that's our, but flipped. You know what I mean? It's not like
Wow.
they line up with, well, those were the kids that were born vaginally versus Easton being the C-section. It's actually there, it would be the opposite. But yes, there are definite differences that that we joke about. Like I said, well, that's my C-section kid. So
Okay. Everybody.
Easton is a little more clingy and a little more, yeah. So
Aw.
not
Well,
mad about that.
you can't be mad about that. That's
No.
awesome. And you got to have one snuggle buddy
Yes.
in there, cuddle
Yes.
coyote, as we
Yeah.
say in our home. So everybody's always worried, like, if I have this isn't going to happen. And if I have this isn't going to happen. When you had your vaginal delivery the first time around with your son, were you concerned about, you know, did you even think about the recovery? Like, did you have tearing? Like, was there anything that happened that made that more challenging?
I did have tearing. I got stitches, and I remember being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
but nothing that wasn't manageable. And it's funny, I always joke that pregnancy is never easy, right? I mean, regardless, you can have one, you can have 15 in there, it doesn't matter. It's never easy.
Truth.
I remember my pregnancy with my oldest, while not easy, looking back, it was a breeze. Like, I mean, I just, labor and delivery was amazing. I got to take a nap. I got to sleep. We were watching football the entire time. I mean, it was great. And then sure enough, they were like, oh, you're at a 10. Let's start pushing. Push 3 times and he was here. And I mean, everything was just so smooth. And so I always joke, I say, man, if the twins were born first, I don't know that I would have any more kids. Like, my oldest gives me the hope that, hey, it can be better than what the twins were. But I think because I just wasn't prepared. And they always say there isn't a book for all of the after. There really isn't. There really, I mean, there are all those books that, hey, just in case this could happen. But I feel like maybe we as moms need to get together and just create a compilation of stories like, this was my experience. And here you go. Maybe you're in there too. Because recovery was not fun, but it was manageable.
Yeah.
With the twins, I remember feeling I can't do this. I remember having those thoughts of like, I can't even sit up. I can't even move. Whereas with Nathan's recovery, maybe it was because he was the firstborn and there was still that element of all the new. But yes, there was tearing and there were stitches and there was discomfort. And those ice packs, ladies, if you're at the hospital and they're giving out the ice packs, you'll become best friends with those. Stock them up, save them, they were great. And I remember the first time not needing one and being like, oh, okay, we're coming back now. So, again, manageable. Whereas I remember with the I didn't feel like it was manageable with the twins, and that could have been a different headset, or mindset,
It
I should
is.
say.
It totally is.
But
It's so
yeah,
much more. There's so much more logistics to worry about with the two babies post delivery. And then
yes,
if you add on, the recovery of a C-section, and then you have to worry about,
mm-hmm.
your bowels, and they're monitoring everything for you.
Yes,
Everything is a little bit more heightened as it is, regardless, even
right.
C-section. And then you throw this bonus baby in, and
Mm-hmm.
then that, of course, adds a whole new element to it. And then for you, I have to say, Nat, truthfully, I think that you had such a good experience the first time around that it was probably more devastating to you.
Oh yeah,
Even if like if it was somebody's first experience, they would probably say, "Yeah, this sucks, but hey, this is what it is."
right.
When you had like such an extraordinary experience and kind of that,
Mm-hmm.
TLC baby story, like
Yes.
everything, and then you're like, "Ruh-oh, Rary, like here
Yep.
we go with the 20s." It's going to kind
Yes.
of kind of shake your world
It
a little
does.
smidge.
Very much. And I remember, speaking of the TLC, one of the first things they did was put Nathan right on top of me
Mhm.
because that's what they do. And it was great. And I have all those pretty birth pictures of all these things. And with the twins, not only was I, strapped down and numb and all, but the shaking was so bad. I didn't get to hold them for about 4 or 5 hours that other people, my mother-in-law, my husband, everybody else got to hold them before I did. And it, again, one of those things that in that fog, you're just like, oh, it's not that big a deal. But looking back at, again, all the pretty birth photos and all the things, I'm like, man, that sucked. That was
Yeah.
terrible. That like I'm the one who put in all that work and I don't even get to cuddle him and hold him. And I remember nurses, like three of us, like trying to help me nurse them the first time. And then again, like you said, there's two now. It's not just one that I'm worried about, it's two. And I can't even hold them, let alone like, yeah, it was devastating is a good word, but it was just I don't, I just, I think at the end of it, I knew like, again, that the blessing of what they were, I knew that, God had everything mapped out for us and we were good, we were covered. And yes, there was that devastating mindset that it was nothing like I pictured,
Mhm.
but hey, we're here. And I think ultimately for me, like I said, we were able to go home so quickly. And yes, I couldn't hold them right away, but I got to take them both home. I have several girlfriends that, I think I set off a chain reaction at our church where they just boom, 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 all started having twins. And then a friend of my husband's, he just had twins and one of theirs was in the NICU for like a month. And I can't imagine having to go home without my kiddos. So you know
Yeah.
what? I'll take the discomfort of labor and things and try to see that other side.
Yeah.
So,
Like I literally say this when I'm teaching our classes. We do live classes too for Twiniversity. And whenever I have them there, I literally tell everybody there's no winning.
yeah.
Nobody wins.
Mm-hmm.
There is no prize at the
Yep.
end. Like it's just gonna be your made up prize. But everybody's bad is their worst.
Yeah.
Right? So it's so there's so many variables of what's good and what's bad, and who the hell knows? Like honestly, like who knows what it's going to be
Yeah.
for you and your delivery. And I know, there are so many people that are so afraid to attempt
Mm-hmm.
a vaginal delivery out of fear
Yes.
out of having your
Yes.
situation. Do you think that like I keep saying this because I'm torn, to be honest with you. I mean, you don't have any control over anything,
Right.
right? Like I
Right.
always say, we can make the best plans, but we don't actually make any of the plans. The babies hold
Right.
all the cards and they make all the
Exactly.
plans and they're going to make a decision on what's going to happen. I love our doctors, and our doctors are
Mm-hmm.
going to be like, this looks like what's going to happen, but it's like that dirty word of should.
Yeah.
Like this should be this way and
Mm-hmm.
this should happen in this order. We don't have any control of that.
You're right.
Like that's
You're
like
right.
there is no should. Like yeah, I should have made it to
Mm-hmm.
38 weeks and I should have gone home with my babies, like all the
Yes.
things, but everybody's should is,
Yeah.
who the heck knows what it is. But I love when I meet my moms who have this double whammy experience, and I love that right now all the pregnant moms are just pooping themselves right now, and they're like, why am I listening to this? What the heck did Nat get us into? But my whole thing about why and going back to kind of what you said, is I think that every story has something
Mhm.
that you gain from it.
Yes,
Right. So
100%.
no matter whether it was your atrocious I'll learn English someday experience, or whether it was like this was my most picture perfect, TLC
Right.
experience, there's always something to learn. So now
Mhm.
looking back on the experience that you had, am I hearing you correctly when you say maybe you could have had a little bit more input in an actual birth plan that may have said, don't hold my babies before me?
That so I will say everyone there was very respectful. And it's funny, I have the girl who came to do our birth photos is actually a personal friend of mine. She also had a very traumatic birth experience with her first. So she was very overly aware of all of the things. And I remember when my mother-in-law came into the room and asked, hey, do you mind if I hold them? And Andrea looking at me, our photographer, saying, do you mind that they're holding them before you? And it was so funny in that moment to have that advocate that, yeah, like that was something that it didn't even cross my mind that one, it wasn't me first, two, that might be a bother. And three, if it was a bother, I had a voice to announce, to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that all would have clicked without Andrea. But I also know that I'm very blessed again with an amazing family. My mother-in-law, I mean, she and I are super close. And the fact that she even asked, she didn't just reach in and take them out.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, I think from a birth plan, it wasn't even something that I would have thought. Like it never crossed my mind that I wouldn't be one of the first ones in there. Moving forward, though, is that something that, yes, I would want to be more aware of? And moms who are listening, if that's something that you want to think of, I would never want anyone to do anything provoked out of fear. Going back to what you said, women who are afraid to even try the vaginal, I still, knowing what I know now, I still would have gone back and tried for the vaginal delivery regardless of the outcome.
Yeah.
I just meant that in that moment, if they could tell, hey, we are going to have to do both, oh no, then we can just go the one way. But it wouldn't have scared me out of doing the other. And I say the same thing in terms of, having that birth plan in place, have a loose, flexible birth plan, have those pointers that, hey, these are the big deals. These are the things that I think, even when the fog has cleared and the dust has settled, these are going to be my yes and my no's and my big deals. And just have that voice, whether it's your husband, your mother-in-law, a doula, whomever it may be. I think that was very important for me, and I didn't even realize it was important. So whoever is out there listening, if you need a voice in there, it's very helpful. Because yeah, like I said, would have never thought of it until Andrea mentioned it, and I'm so glad she did, because it allowed me to look back on that situation now and be at peace with that situation and say, yeah, it kind of sucked that I didn't get to hold them, but I'm the one who gave them permission. No one just came in and grabbed my kid without my say all. So yeah. Yeah.
Telling that's so important, and that's such a valuable lesson. And Andrea, I mean, honestly, like big shout out to
Shout out to
you,
Andrea.
because that is it's so freaking important, and your partners don't always know to be
Mm-hmm.
that voice.
Yeah.
They also are deer in the headlights, confused about everything and don't know what to do next. So they can't necessarily speak up for
Yeah.
you. And just like Nat said, like honestly, we don't know. Like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
Like that's
exactly.
like that is our golden rule at Twiniversity, is that we're
Yeah.
learning from
Mm-hmm.
every person that we speak to. There's something that we could get something from. So now with that too, looking back on that experience, if you had another friend that was expecting twins, like you started your chain reaction, looking back, if you did know, like you said, that I would still have
Mm-hmm.
gone for the vaginal delivery, because you got to roll those dice, right? Like
Yes.
we're gambling chicks. We're gonna take
We're gonna do
we're
it.
gonna take the good, but knowing that it may not go the way and go the
Mm-hmm.
similar way that you had. What are some of the other things that maybe you would tell people? Okay, well, besides advocating for yourself, what are some of those other quick things? Like I love like the tip about the ice pack. Like that is like unbelievable.
Yes.
And people don't,
Crucial.
also, what's great too, if you take a maxi pad and you wet it and put that in the freezer.
Freezer.
There you go. Boom. Bam.
Yes.
Save yourself a few days.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it. Frozen.
100%.
Frozen always. It's the way to
Yes.
go.
Well, and I think for me, that was a big thing that my husband's a business owner. And so in terms of, I've always been very grateful that I had great employers at the time who took great care of me. But, growing a business and working, I mean, finances were always something that concerned us, or something that were always in the forefront of our mind. And I think for me, like you said, money saving with the frozen always. And, um, just little things in terms of, like, for example, a C-section. If you're going in with a C-section, and again, I know some women have a really great recovery, me, not so much, but I think it's because I had so much excess. I couldn't wear pants. I didn't know to bring nightgowns because I'm not a nightgown girl. Pack some nightgowns, because my husband had to go to Target for me. And now I have these, I'm not kidding when I tell you, they're little Disney princess juniors nightgowns. And I think I'm like, babe, really? This is what but he got me nightgowns. But nightgowns, didn't even think that I would need nightgowns, but that might be something, to have as a just in case. And, from a financial perspective, you do not need a million of all of the things. We were able to make a traditional boppy pillow work for tandem nursing. Now, there was an additional setup, but I know that they have these amazing products where they have, the larger pillows for nursing. We did it. We spent all the money and never used it, and wound up donating it to one of my friends who wound up having twins. And for her, it worked for her shape and size and all the things, but we were able. So I think just a lot of trial and error. Give yourself grace and know that you don't need, just because it's marketed for a twin or for a multiple. I bet you can get crafty and make it work. Like I said, with whether it be the boppy pillows or those nightgowns that you just, I lived in the hospital nightgown for a while until that Target trip was made. But yeah, anything you can do. I hate to say cut corners, but from a financial perspective, one of the biggest shocks for me, which sounds terrible, but just being honest, when each of them this year, they just turned 4 in September, they had totally different Christmas lists. I mean, totally. Like, one was like, I just want all dinosaur stuff. And the other kid was all sports. And I'm like, oh, like now we actually have to shop for 3 kids. Yeah. How much could we have saved in other holidays where we could have combined gifts? And we did it to an extent, but there was always a part of me that was very like, I want to celebrate their individuality. Their individuality is coming. Embrace them as one child as long as you can. That was something big for us, that we were like, oh, well, this is a whole new realm. We really have 3 kids now. Yeah. So yeah.
You hit an age where you no longer have twins, you just have 2 kids.
Yes. And that was kind of new for us. That was a new, like, oh, okay, you look exactly the same, but you're totally different. So that was, yeah.
Gosh. And now on that, the whole identicalness of this awesome thing, when they were first born and everybody was home, how did you not mix them up that first day?
Nail polish. Preston had a very manly shade of blue painted toenails for a while. That was something that, and again, it's so funny to me, the fears that creep in of the most random things. I was terrified of mixing them up. Terrified. I mean, beyond that, I just kept thinking, there's a call in their life and God's called them to be these people. And if I mix them up, they're going to be, and just, I let the crazy in to just really steal my joy. And, it was so important to me. And I will say Preston was slightly smaller, so that did always help somewhat. But at the end of the day, in the middle of the night, when you're trying to keep track of who ate when and how much and who was wet and who wasn't wet, and those little painted toenails were crucial. And then as they started to get a little bit older, Preston never wore clothes. He was always in a diaper, and Easton would have the onesie on, or Preston just roll around naked for a while. So it's funny. My oldest has a birthmark, not in the middle of his forehead, but I mean, it like right on the crown of his head, that when babies were born, even with hair, you could see it right there. And it's since moved back, but he has this massive mark on his head. The twins, nothing, not a dot, not a birthmark, not a freckle. There is nothing on those little boys to indicate who they are, but their older brother, boom, dot, right smack in the middle of the crown of his head. So yeah, nail polish was crucial. We always joked about getting them tattoos or like stamping something on the bottom of their foot, but we never actually did it. But nail polish was our best friend.
Listen,
So
I've heard people talk about it. Now jewelry is definitely like a
yes.
leather bracelet or like,
Yep.
something that's not going to react with the baby's
Hmm.
skin
Yes.
is always a big one. But nail polishes goes back. I mean, with we know we have people who had their twins in the 60s and they were always nail polish babies.
Yeah.
That's been
Yeah.
just the way that it was. And those women didn't even know they were having twins.
Oh,
It was just,
yes.
surprise, like you're not done. What's going on?
Yes.
So,
And truth, I'm not proud of this. Well, it's kind of funny, but I've actually dated identical twins. And so sometimes I see my twins as, as just my sense of, but they're very, very different. And they're very obviously like you could tell them apart very easily because that's always the question I get is you dated, but I did. I dated both of them, one for a very short amount of time. One was a more serious relationship. But I remember their mom telling me that she had two older sons. They went in with their third pregnancy and her first was born and they were like, oh wait, here comes another one. I mean, they were born in 83 and I'm like, you didn't know? She had no idea until Chris was born, like here he is. And I was like, oh great. And so yeah, thankfully we knew right away.
see,
No
this
idea.
is what I'm saying. If I ever want to say that, like, oh, that would be bad. I think if I didn't know my whole pregnancy and then there was this bonus kid in there,
Yeah,
I don't even know. I don't
I
even know.
know. I'm too much of a planner. Everyone was like, are you going to find out what you're having? Is that a question? Yes, I'm going to find out what I'm having. Of course. I need to know all the things. So, yeah, I can't even imagine.
Oh
Bless
my
those women.
gosh. But
Yeah.
now looking back, what do you think was your highlight of your delivery day, of your fancy pantsy vaginal C-section extravaganza?
So, I mean, I won the story. The fact that I always get the, oh, whenever I tell people, that's always kind of fun. But I remember when we found out we were having twins, we took forever to figure out their names. We finally figured them out. And I ordered on Etsy these little onesies with little hats that had their names on them. And after your delivery, they have the hospital photographer that comes around to take their pictures and do all the things. And she had them cuddled up on this pillow and they had their little Preston and Easton hats on and just snapped this picture. And I just lost it. And I was like, this right here, this is what I've been waiting for this entire time, this moment of these two little babies, these little gifts that are just, and the fact that just seeing how they instantly calmed each other and that relate from the instant they were born, the way they knew each other more so than me. And I quote unquote made them. And I mean, just seeing that so quickly, all within, I mean, the first 12 hours, if that, I mean, just, it blew my mind. And so I think that was the best part of the day was, like I said, getting to tell the story and just being, this girl's a rock star. She did, I mean, little celebrity for the day. So that was fun. But also just seeing my dream and my hope at like just seeing it visual, like seeing it come to life, that just these two little peanuts sitting there on this little pillow with their little hats with their names and all like cuddled up and holding their little hands because that's what they were still. Yeah, it was amazing. So amazing. So yeah.
See, and that's okay. We can
Yeah.
take it. We'll just
Yeah.
get another ice pack and then that's it.
Yep.
That's the way that it goes. Oh, Nat, I'm so happy that
Yeah.
you shared whether it was joy or fear that people are going to take away from this. I don't know. Honestly, it could go either way. I think it should be joy because if you think about it at the end of the day, look at you now.
Yeah. And they're amazing. And like I said,
Yeah.
honestly, the story alone is fun, but recovery is no, it's not easy, but being a parent isn't easy. Like no one said it was easy. And so I think it didn't break me by any means. It's not going to break anyone else. And so always find that joy. And like I said, I think if you let yourself, you can find the ways to let the crazy in, but they're magical. And I think that regardless of how they come into this world, whether it's vaginally, C-section, both, surrogacy, whatever it may be, however they get here, they're amazing. And so you should be really proud of what your body can do. So
I
yeah.
think you literally just wrap that up beautifully. I'm so excited right now.
Oh, good.
Nat, you're the best. I
Oh,
appreciate
thanks.
it. I'm sorry that we had a time zone discrepancy. We're gonna just have to
Me
move
too.
closer to each other
Yes, I'm
because
here
this is
for it.
ridiculous,
So,
honestly.
where in the East Coast? Because I'm originally from Jersey.
I'm
So,
in a little I'm on a little island called Manhattan. It's
oh,
very
I've
tiny.
heard
It's
of it.
actually about nine
Yes.
miles by 3 miles. Not many people heard about it. People say it's like a
Mm-mm.
big tourist destination. I feel like it's mostly tourists.
Yes, I
And
believe
then
it.
there's me.
Yeah.
So there's my
Yes.
entire family who's been
Yeah.
here for hundreds of years.
Yours.
So
Yeah.
we'll just be here if you need us. So yeah, when you
Yes.
come back
Love it.
home, I will be here waiting for you, Nat.
Perfect. See, my dad and his family born and raised in Queens. So
That's it.
we got you. Yep.
I'm there. I'm one
Yeah.
subway, a few subway stops away. I'm doing
I
it.
love it.
Gosh, Nat, you are the absolute best. I'm honestly,
Thank you.
thank you very, very much for hanging with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I was super pumped. So thank you.
Yay. Yay. Okay, guys, if you have questions for me or the other Nat, or she's the
Yes.
original Nat and I'm the second Nat, email us at community@twiniversity.com. We could get them over to her so she could maybe give you more tips on how not to let the crazy in. Statement, I literally wrote it down on a post-it. It will be going on to my
Yeah.
computer as my new mantra. My other one was,
Yes.
what is your role in this when I try to get too involved in other people's stories? So now I'm adding, don't let the crazy in right in there. But if you have anything that you need from Nat or I, just email us, or you could send us a direct message on literally any social platform. We're just at Twiniversity. We're not very original when it comes to things like that. And if you did find this podcast somewhat enjoyable, even 2%, feel free to give me a 1-star review. I'll take
Yeah.
it. Just knock out that other 1-star review about me yelling at my dog. Just have it as something a lot more fun. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss your next episode of this. And until next
Yes.
time, guys, see you later, alligators.